I'm going to talk tonight about what I use to make my foam core boxes. I've got another video or two out there already for Puerto Rico and another game for Tzolk'in. But I figured I'd give you some ideas as to what I use for tools, some mistakes I've made along the way, and some do's and don'ts of foam coring. So first, the tools and the equipment. I buy this foam core. It's 3/16. It's about 4 or 5 millimeters high. I usually count for 5, but no guarantees. Could be about 4, 4.5. I stumbled across a sheet of foam core. This is remnants of it, and you can kind of see it's longer than a ruler here. Definitely this way. I recommend the 20 by 30 foam core sheets, 20 inches by 30 inches. That's enough to do one game, no problem. But I ended up getting this sheet of foam core that was many feet by many feet. So I've been kind of chopping that up to do my boxes. So that's the foam core. You can see I've got scraps here. I do keep a lot of my scraps just in case I need little pieces to fill in later. The ruler that I use just an Office Max. It's a metal ruler. You are going to cut against it with a very sharp blade. It's important to have a very sturdy ruler. I have cork on the back of mine. I found it really nice because you can kind of see here, applying some pressure, it's hard to move, but especially if I do it this way, and if I put my fingers on it, like it moves a little, but unlike the plastic ones or metal that don't have the cork, it sticks a little bit more. It's real nice. I started with a plastic ruler. That was a mistake. My knife sliced right through it, and that ruler is now trash. So that's okay. As far as glue, I use basic Elmer's school glue. So that's what I use for glue. I started with EZ500. It was really thick, extremely strong, but very difficult to use, very difficult to get out of the tube. So basic Elmer's school glue, I can get it on really quickly. I can wipe away with my finger any excess or anything that I don't need. It's not difficult to work with. The nozzle opens and closes really simply, so I recommend that. I've got push pins here, basic yellow sewing push pins. You can see here they are a few inches, maybe 2 inches or so. I might end up buying another box sometime of like 3 inches, and then just a little like maybe 1 inch or ½ inch. I don't know if they sell the ½ inch pins, but it would be nice sometime. Here, if you can't see it, this is what they look like. Just a little bit of yellow head pin there. I did get for my birthday, shout out to my sister for that one of these little needle balls. Mine's a plum. So she went to Joann Fabrics and got me a gift. That was very nice of her. It stores about the amount of pins that I need for one box, because I make individual boxes at a time. So I have that. It's really nice to quickly get a pin in and out. So that's the push pins. My knives, I use a foldable utility knife, standard blade. You can see here, just a standard razor blade that you buy, Menards, Home Depot. You can buy a big pack of them. The only reason I went with the foldable type is because that's what I had around the house. I don't necessarily recommend it, but mine's pretty durable. Folds up real nice. I got kids walking around the house, so they can't just slide it forward, but they can just open it. What are you gonna do? But it is nice to have a good blade. I use a new blade with every box now that I make. A mistake I made the first time with the blade, I just used the blade that was already in there, and I made some really poor cuts, which I'll show you in a minute. But you gotta use a new blade, and when you're done with the blade for a game, you can just put it in another little container and use it for other cuts, rope and stuff like that. I forgot to mention a mistake I made with the pins. I used small 1 inch small 1 inch pins They didn't have the big yellow head. They had the small little, almost headless pins, but they're really small little heads. Made it impossible to get out of my box. I ended up having to pry them out with a utility knife and my nails, and this is a little bit easier to get out. Your fingers can grab them a little bit more, and you have a little more control, although I do bend them pretty frequently, so I'll end up having to buy some more of these soon. I also use an X-Acto knife. This is actually kind of an off-brand, but it's the same thing. It's just an extremely sharp blade. Came with 3 replacements. I think this is the Menards brand of utility knife. It makes very sharp, very accurate cuts. It's what I do all of my, if I have to do any curves, if I have to do any thumb holes or any prints like that, I can get in here, you hold it like a pencil, and you can make your cuts pretty good. It's very sharp, so be careful, of course, as you're using knives, and especially one like this, because this will slice your finger very, very easily. I also used to use an orange knife like this. A lot of people I've seen use them. I don't necessarily prefer it. It's very light. I feel like I'm gonna break it. I'm putting a lot of pressure on when I cut. I don't love it, but I keep it here just in case if I ever need it. I also got a pen and a pencil, just in case I need to make little lines or anything like that. But you can see that here, and then this is kind of just like a little storage thing I have. Some extra blades, pen and pencil, things like that. The last and one of my favorite tools, I have a metal T-square here. This particular one is 48 inches long. It's a little long. I might nip off the bottom 12 sometime with a nice saw, but it is a T-square. It's really great. I can put it on the edge of my table, and then I can put my foam up underneath it and get perfectly straight cuts. It might be a little hard to see, but it does work. I can get straight cuts coming off the T. I use it for almost every cut that is under 2 or 3, or that is over 2 or 3 inches. The little small ones like this get a little hard. I'm still trying to figure out the height here, because if you can see, it's a little tall for the foam core. But that's a great buy. Got that as a gift as well. So those are my tools. Let's talk a little bit about my boxes, some of my mistakes. Oh, and my mat. I didn't even talk about my mat. So this is it's not a self-healing mat. It's just a standard rubberized mat that I also got for my birthday. I used to be using cardboard as my base. Cardboard, if you are familiar with it, if you've ever looked inside cardboard, it's kind of rolls up and down inside of 2 sheets of paper. What happens with your knife is you end up cutting, and as you're cutting, your hand starts going up and down as you cut. And I'll show you the result of that here. You can kind of see, this is a box I showed in another video, but if you look here, I've got these holes in my foam core. Fortunately, this box never comes out, so you don't see this one, but it made for very poor looking. Unfortunately, this is the top of the box here. You can see I've got these holes, these like rips in the foam core where it actually didn't cut, it just pulled the foam, and you can see that down here as well. My new mat, of course, I started getting these much better lines. You can kind of see real good, real smooth lines right in here. My X-Acto knife with my finger holes, so I can come in here and grab things out of the middle if I need. Filled this with boxes, so that's the X-Acto knife at work. I showed you this a minute ago. I'll go ahead and dump this stuff. You can see here, this is the first box that I ever made. Not necessarily sentimental, just more became my storage device, because I used the cardboard, I used a dull utility knife, I used the Easy 500 glue. It just, everything about it was bad. I used the plastic ruler. You can see here, I've got really terrible cuts. If I hold it at its side, you might be able to see here a little bit. I've got some shaving going on right here. That's where my plastic ruler gave out on me. You can see it's just a little messy. Coming out of the sides here, it's ripped. All around, you can see it's ripping up at the top here a little bit. All around, just a really bad box. The whole bottom is bad, everything like that. So once I got new tools, I remade this one. And the result of that is this box here. You can see in Puerto Rico video that I have this as the same lines, but if you compare these side by side here, you can see the tops are extremely clean. The top of that new one, just really nice cuts. That's all these new tools at work. This side here, got a really nice edge here. If you look at it from this angle, everything is just real smooth. Came out really nice. I have no regrets about redoing this box. Everything measured out. I can't flip it unfortunately, but the whole bottom, real clean, just looks really good. So definitely recommend all the good tools. It's absolutely worth it. The recommendation for when you're building a couple of these boxes, such as this here, these couple of boxes, to get these measurements is great. What you can do is you can measure off all the squares that you need and then put little pins as placeholders. However, I learned that that doesn't work very well unless maybe I just did it bad. What I found is it's much easier to put the little pieces of cardboard in here as your placeholder when you glue in the blocks. You can see here I've got a lot of room here. These ones don't move at all. So what I did instead is I put the cardboard pieces in, and then I glued my long strips down. And then I put them in again and I glued the short strips in. That prevents this kind of a thing from happening where you got big and small. It's just a little bit better to do that. So I recommend that. Sweeps, it's a common word sometimes tossed around. Basically I use black cardstock. The black cardstock here is what I buy. It matches exactly the foam core. If I pull out the black cardstock here and put it on top of the foam core, you can barely tell a difference. Maybe you can't at all, but it does blend very nicely. I do that. I come in here with a big sheet of black cardstock. I'll just go this way. I hold it up against one edge, I slice that, and then I use a nice straight edge, slice it all the way through. Gets me a long strip like this where I slide it down inside. I curve it up, and what it does is it gives me a nice curve like this. What that does is it allows me to pull out the barrels or my other small objects just real quickly because of that. I'm not digging in. If I did it the other way, you're kind of digging in here. You're pulling it out from the base. It doesn't work that well. The sweep. So that's a single sweep. I've got a double sweep that I put in on one of mine. Basically it's the same thing, but I just curved this up on both sides like that. Put a glue drop at the bottom, 2 glue drops at the top, and I put this in here like this. Basically on the inside it looks kind of like that. So that's a sweep. I believe that's all I have today to show you. So these are my tools, sweeps, and the importance of tools. Don't even try to cut a foam core box without it. It's extremely important to have the right tools. And then there's just a couple do's and don'ts of foam coring. Let me know if you have any questions. Thanks.